this particular moment in time, like what compelled you to really want to wrap your mind and expertise around this story?
Well, for me, I mean, it was just the idea. My family's from Lowndes County, Alabama. So my mother's from Compton, my father's from Lowndes County, Alabama. And Lowndes County is the county that they walked through on that 5-day march from Selma to Montgomery. Those backwoods where there were, Klan snipers, like trying to, pick off marchers, and federal troops had to protect them. That was all going through like the back of my father's farm when he was a kid. So, so this was always, part of the family lore of like when they watched the marchers go by over the fence. But really for me, it was just as an African-American studies major at UCLA, I just always knew that King was badass, but no one really talks about that. He's been homogenized to like a speech and a statue, but I mean, he was really a radical thinker and a badass brother. And so the whole idea of nonviolence being homogenized into this weak way of doing something. I mean, I'm from Compton, so like, I'm a Panther fan, and like, that's like my thing. But as I studied our history, you get to really see what those tactics were, how strategic they were, how savvy they were, how many planes they were working on, legislative, grassroots. I mean, it's fascinating. And all we get is "I Have a Dream," which was like not even his best speech. It's not even his best speech, you guys. So, so just the chance to show the complexities, the nuance, the strategy, the failings, the complexity of this brother. I mean, he was just a black man from Atlanta. I mean, he was just a short, flat guy. And, who did amazing and extraordinary thing with the help of a band of brothers and sisters around him who really pushed the whole thing forward. That to me is fascinating. I'd never seen it. And so when, I pitched that idea to the producers, when they came to me and asked if I was interested, I said I would be, but it would have to go like this. They were like, well, if you think you should do it, and Oprah says, okay, then why don't we try? And so that's what we did. I'm not sure that I don't know how it's going to be received, because it's not, it's a different, I don't say it's a different take on civil rights, but we're not seeing a lot of the swagger of the nonviolent movement in most of the films about civil rights. And so there was a lot of swagger there, a lot of bravery, a lot of beauty in a real radical way, and so that's what we all tried to do.
So thank you. David, talk a little bit about Ava on set, just what that process is. That you work with her on, but just how is she connecting with, engaging the other talent, as well as yourself on set rehearsals?
Can I just say?
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity to just give a shout out to some of our cast who's here right to center, right down the center. I see Coleman Domingo right here, plays Ralph Abernathy. Stand up, please, Coleman. Andre Holland, Andrew Young. I mean, and the great. I mean, we would all bow down if we had room in our seats to Ruben Santiago Hudson, who plays Byron Rustin. And our executive producer, Paul Garnes. And our production designer, Mark Freeberg. People that are here, but I'm happy they're here. So, did that answer the question?
No, you don't escape that easily. Well, with Ava, it all starts with the writing. I mean, that was how I first met Ava. I first met Ava, sat next to a guy, random guy on a plane, who happened to be watching a show I used to do in the UK on his iPad. He turns to me and goes, "Oh, is this you I'm looking at on my iPad?" I said, "Yes, that's me." He goes, "Oh, well, my friend's asking me to put money into a film. Is that a good idea?" So I didn't tell him the truth, obviously. I said, "Well, what's the film?" And he talked about Ava, and I'd seen her on CNN giving an interview about I Will Follow, her first film, and I said, "Well, send me the script, I'll tell you what I think." And I was just blown away by Middle of Nowhere, on the page, blown away. And when she came on board of Selma, this was a script that already, great filmmakers were circling. What she did when she put her touch on it is what I knew she would do, which is to dimensionalize us. That's what she does so brilliantly, and by us I mean people of color. I grew up just idolizing Spike Lee, and the early films of his that I watched as a young kid in London. And I watched his films set in New York, and I felt like I was there. I understood who these people were, even though my experience was entirely different. And that was one of the reasons I moved to this country, to be part of that. And to me, when I read Middle of Nowhere, it went straight to the heart of why I love American cinema and why I love black cinema. It reminded me of what I'd fallen in love with and I'd felt a thirst for and hadn't really been reading scripts that did this. And I had that experience with Middle of Nowhere. Not only is she a brilliant writer, but her ability with actors on a set. We made that film for no money, and I've worked with great directors, and I didn't for 1 second feel the lack of budget, because anything that you felt you lacked from that, there was such an enriching feeling from the sheer amount of challenge. Look, I am not a bus driver from Compton, you know. So for her to allow me to do that and get me there is to do with her genius. So if there's anyone who's going to get me to be Martin Luther King, it's this lady. So it's all of those things. I hope that answers your question.
In other words, take scripts from strangers in airplanes? You don't know. Or at least just read them. Just read scripts. Why would you even say, yes, I'll read a script from a stranger on the plane?
Because
that's the part of the story we
I've
haven't
seen
really
you on
investigated.
CNN. I've seen you be so intelligent on CNN about movie making.
Yes, thank you, David.
So, looking at all your films, music has definitely been a touchstone in many of your films that I've seen. One was dedicated to film.
Yeah.
And your first documentary, This Is the Life. So, talk a little bit about what role music plays in this film, how you've done it differently.
Yeah, well, you mentioned This Is the Life, and I'll just say that, you know, I tweeted earlier that someone had asked me, who's not familiar with Urbanworld, why are you showing these clips at Urbanworld? And I said, well, because it's home. Because my very, very first short, I mean, horrible short. So bad short. Played at Urbanworld. And I remember Stacy Spikes saying, it's good, you keep trying, you can do it. And you know, and that meant something to me and made me continue. And then my first documentary, This Is the Life, I made it, making this all my little money publicist, putting the money into making things, played here. And then my second documentary, My Mic Sounds Nice, played here. Then I Will Follow, played here. You even played the short film I did for Prada here. I mean, they find it exclusive to play everything. They played Middle here. This is my home. Jason Reitman takes all his films to Toronto. I take all my films to Urbanworld. Yeah. So this is why I'm at Urbanworld. Thank you, Gabrielle. The question is music. I mean, music is so essential to the filmmaking process. For me, it really, I usually pick a piece of music, or I'm attracted to a piece of music that takes me through the whole film, from the screenwriting phase to the end. And then I put that song in the film and try to adorn that song with other songs that complement it. That happened to me on Selma. There's a song, when you eventually go see Selma on December 25th, prepare my pictures. You will hear a song towards the end of the film that I actually wrote the film to. And so, you know, my inspiration comes from a piece of music. But with Selma, I want to go out of my comfort zone and not just do, you know, the Rare Valverde's, who's like amazing musician who's here, and a lot of the other just cool black music, soul music that I put in the films. I had to push myself. I said, I'm going to be like a real filmmaker and not do the easy way. So I asked my music supervisor, Morgan Rhodes, who's a genius. I asked her, I said, this is what we're going to do with this film. Only songs from 1965. She's like, bet, okay, I got that. I was like, and no hits. She's like, what do you mean no hits? I was like no hits. Like, if it's Otis Redding, it can't be like the main song. It's got to be the B-side of the song. She's like, but did they have B-sides then? I was like, I don't know. But you got to find what else you was doing at that time. And so she's just pulled these amazing voices, one of which you'll hear in the clip, which we're about to throw to in 30 seconds. But we're just trying, the grain on the records are just, it's there, and these voices are kind of just haunting. And it's really great old music that feels so current, especially now in terms of what we're seeing in Ferguson, and how that echoes Selma, how Selma echoes Ferguson. It's all the same voices, it's all the same problems, it's all the same energy. And so anyway, that's a different way to approach the music on Selma that we've done before.
Great, so why don't you set up to cut?
Yeah, so David's never seen this, nor has Coleman, nor has Andre, nor has Ruben, nor has Paul Lawrence, nor has Mark Freeberg. No one has seen this clip. Now listen, it's spit out of the Avid. Who knows what Avid is? A lot of filmmakers here. A lot of filmmakers up in here. So you already know, all right? What if I was just going to go see something in your Avid on the big screen? How would you feel? But it was time for Urbanworld. What was I supposed to do? Not be here? So anyway, it's raw. It's just spinach. It's raw, it's rugged, but these are two scenes that I really love. It's a sequence, and this is the point where King's organization, which was, anyone know King's organization? SCLC, thank you. Someone knows the history over here. And John Lewis and James Foreman's organization, anybody know who that was? SNCC. Close, Core and SNCC. So SNCC and SCLC are kind of having a little showdown about who gets control of Selma. And that's where the scene begins, and then it moves on from there. And then afterward, we'll take some questions, and then everybody can go party or do whatever you're doing in New York on a Saturday night. Thank you. Thank you. Is everybody do it? Okay.